It's really not that serious around here. Another episode of the Washed Up Walk-Ons podcast. Another Luke. Back-to-back Lukes. We just had Lachey on. How do you feel about that?
Love it. Love the show. Great dude.
You're the more important one around here.
I guess so.
This is a long snapper podcast. We have another long snapper on today. Long snapper for the Hawks for the last, well, really, I consider it 4 years, 4 full years, essentially, is what your career turned into, which would be the first time since me that we've had a 4-year guy. Not to brag. I'm old as shit now, so my relevance is just almost zero. But Luke Elkin joins the show out of, where are you from? Neenah, Wisconsin?
Neenah, Wisconsin, yep.
Neenah, Wisconsin. And thanks for the time, by the way. Thanks for sitting down.
Yep.
How's, you just finished your senior year. You technically have a year left, don't you?
No, I got no years of eligibility left.
There's no COVID years sitting there. You never got hurt because you're a
No
specialist.
COVID, no red shirt, nothing.
Wow.
Torn out.
Gosh. Senior, walk at senior day, 4 years in the program. Now you're going to make a run at the NFL. What's life like right now?
So right now I got back to Iowa City last week. Started training up a little bit. Went down to Florida actually this past weekend to go train with some snapping coaches. So that was good.
Who's that?
Cole's guys, so Casey
Okay.
Casper.
Yep.
But yeah, I'm just training here in Iowa City, and then I got camps that I'm going to the next few months or so that are kind of all over the country. So that's exciting.
That is exciting. I remember that after the final game, it's like, okay, what does this look like for a specialist? Those listening today or tonight or whenever you put this in your ears, there might get into some nitty gritty special team stuff. So it's gonna get full on nerd mode today because I don't get to talk to long snappers very often. You've been a Coles guy your whole journey, right?
Yeah, I started with Coles around my freshman year of high school.
Really, all the way back at freshman year.
Yeah, so it's
okay. So this is a good segue. It's 8 years. Wow. So this is a good segue into how does Luke Elkin pick up the ball and start long snapping? Because that's the question for every specialist: snapper, kicker, punter. It's like, what? Why weren't you a quarterback, man?
So I was a quarterback throughout high school.
Oh.
And what kind of started out was in 8th grade, we were trying to figure out who's the long snapper, punter, and kicker. And I obviously could throw a spiral, so I just threw that spiral with one hand between my legs in 8th grade. Like, maybe you could do this. And then freshman year came around, and I had a friend that snapped at Arizona State, I think. Arizona State for a year, and he was from our area. So we went and worked with him for a little bit. And that's kind of how I got kicked off to actually snapping a football. At the collegiate level with 2 hands and all this stuff.
Yeah.
So that was the first time that I actually got into it, technicalities and stuff. And then from there on out, I went to Cole's camps and then ended up here.
Did you see that as this friend of yours is at ASU? Did you see the writing on the wall? I guess is what I'm trying to say is I'm a quarterback right now. I think actually when I saw you come in recruit wise, you played a couple different, you played safety and.
Yeah, I played safety and wide receiver.
So we got a real big time athlete here. And, but you were a little smaller and a little slower. What are you doing, big girl? We have an interruption from my daughter. Can you say hi to Luke? Say hi, Luke. Okay. That's what you can look forward to that in what are you, 22? You can look forward 8 years. So I guess the way it works for a lot of guys is they're playing another position, right? They're 4th, 5th, 6th grade. It's I'm a linebacker. For me, I'm a linebacker. I'm a running back. The problem is I'm not a Division I speed. I don't have that kind of athleticism. On top of that, guys like myself played at a school where you just, even if you are really good, you're not winning a lot of games. You're not going to get a lot of coaches coming through town to see what you actually have got, even if you've got some talent. And so it's an out of it's a way out to be I can make it at the top level of college football if I really go after this position. Was that sort of what it was?
Yeah, so kind of it was more on my junior year when I started to realize when schools bigger name schools started hitting me up as a long snapper.
Yeah.
But like junior and senior year, it was like I could go play like D2 football and play like an actual position, whether that's safety or quarterback or whatever. But then it was North Dakota State and Iowa were like, we'll take you as a long snapper. And I was like, that's pretty hard to pass up on the Big Ten. Like, I can't be like, I had the opportunity to go play in the Big Ten, and I turned that down to go play D2 football. So like,
Still a walk on though.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah. When were you given scholarship?
After my sophomore year, so right before my junior year.
So, you're 10 or 11 games in 21, and then another 13 in 22.
Yep,
And then okay. We're on the same path there.
Yeah.
The same financial calendar for us. What do you think about that, by the way? Like, do you have opinions on? I know you're not gonna like. It's hard to say like, oh, the coaches should have given me money sooner. Like, what is your opinion on when specialists deserve and when they should be put on and stuff like that?
So like with my opinion, it's kind of more like if you start, I feel like you should be put on scholarship, which is kind of just like you're a crucial factor to the team. Like you go and you make points for the team to go win games. But like when I was going through it, like I wasn't like very angry that I wasn't on scholarship.
Sure.
Just because like I was enjoying it. I was around a good group of guys. Like it was like there was never a thought where I was like, I'm gonna go leave somewhere else and go play there. Like I'm like that thought never crossed my mind because I was like, this place is just awesome.
It's great because you love where you're at. You're enjoying your college experience. You have an opportunity that even most specialists don't get. And we'll go over sort of how you stepped in so early in your career. But I mean, 4 years, man, as a chance to be a true starter, part of the team, like you're the guy. That just doesn't come around very often. And so to some extent, and it was the same for me, is they know they've got you by the balls. Like they've got you because your situation is so good. You're already living in Iowa City. You're not going to uproot your life. Now, compared to my situation in 14, there wasn't like this portal thing, this NIL, not that snappers would get a bunch of NIL, but who knows? Like that guys leaving and going wasn't as frequent.
Yeah.
And so there definitely was no thought in my mind like, oh, I should try and go seek a better opportunity. But I'm thinking about just this year, Luke, like I don't know how close you pay attention, but the Nebraska's long snappers have been god awful. And I think they went and got a guy in the portal like after this season ended.
Yeah.
From some like New Hampshire school or something.
They picked up like a regular student that snapped in high school for this year and then played for him, which
Jesus
is the reason why they lost the game against us.
Unbelievable.
Yep.
And so there are opportunities, not all the time. There's definitely not as many like open spots as a quarterback or a running back at all these other schools. And there's only one guy that does it at each one of these schools. But there are opportunities where if you could have found something like that, you could have even made a lateral move, like or an upward move in the Big Ten or somewhere in the SEC. Like, hey, we just ran into an issue where our snapper is not very good. You were a proven guy after 1 year. I mean, some would say proven. You could go make that run, but I'm sure it was also because everybody gets this. It's like, hey, after this year, like if you prove you're the guy, like you got it. And then it comes back around to camp and it's like you're waiting for it. And then I don't know how it went for you, if you had a meeting like that or if you got brought into the office. But for me, it was like, hey, I know we said that we had a scholarship for you, your second year starting, but we got 2 left. And these 2 guys, they deserve it. They're a class ahead of you, right? Was there anything like that?
Nothing really. There wasn't much talk after like my freshman year for it.
Okay.
And then it was actually sophomore year at the bowl game in Music City Bowl. It was after practice, and we were doing some stuff after practice, and KF comes up and he's like, "Hey Luke, by the way, we plan on putting you on scholarship for next semester or next year. I don't remember which one it was."
Oh,
And I was like, "Oh, like what?" Like
I know, right? So
insane.
subtle.
I'm just practicing, like doing my own thing, and you come up and drop that bomb on me. Like, it was pretty cool though.
So it is super cool.
Yeah.
And it's such a like you get to go tell your parents, you immediately text your parents. Like that's awesome, right? And if I've told the story a lot on here, but like for me, I was literally me and another guy got put on at the same time, and we just got a text message from KB, like one random summer afternoon, like, "Hey, you guys are on scholarship. You need to go sign your papers." That's how I got my scholarship.
Oh, that's crazy.
It's like, so you see, I'm not asking for like one of those team meeting videos, like surprise,
Yeah, no.
but like, I didn't even talk to KF. I didn't
Yeah.
even like, it was such a weird thing. And I feel like they like to keep it low key for the specialists at Iowa, or really like most guys. But once you get over that, yeah.
Yeah, because Drew Stevens got put on the same time I did. So his freshman year, my sophomore year.
Yeah.
So that's where I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Like 2 specialists getting put on scholarship. Like that's like very good for
Rare.
us. Like, yeah.
They don't do that very often. They're not handing those things out.
No.
What was the message to you in recruit, like whatever your recruiting looked like junior year? You said you started to get, people are starting to reach out. What was the message from the staff like before you committed?
It was more like you're gonna have to come in here and work your butt off, get after it, and show us that you're able to play. And obviously, like coming to Iowa, knowing too, like you got to go through it to find your time, especially at other positions as well. But it was basically like if you prove that you're better, you'll end up being the starter, and then after that, you'll get put on scholarship. Like that was kind of like my whole thing.
And you came in 2020.
2021.
2021 was your first season.
Yep.
And you came in that summer?
That summer, June.
Okay. And so at the time, it would have been Spiewak.
Yep.
My brother.
Yep.
And Buddy.
4 long snappers.
Who, real name, not Buddy. His real name is Liam Reardon, right?
Yeah.
He's
at Northwestern now too.
Northwestern?
Yep.
And is he the guy?
I think so.
Wow.
Because he played at Akron this past year.
Yeah.
Grad transfer, but then he had another year because of redshirt and COVID. So then his 6th year was this year.
Holy smokes.
Year, so he's going to Northwestern.
Oh my God.
Which is like awesome.
That is awesome. It's so sick to see. And so, so you guys had 4 guys that were kind of like, there was one there at one point. I also had 3 guys underneath me, and it was like, what are we doing? Like, how did we end up with so many guys? There was a little bit of, there's some politics about it back then too, but there always is. So you come into a room of 4 guys, and it's like, what you get thrown into summer. At least you got some summer workouts. You got to feel it out. How was that first summer? How, like, getting into the workouts, the speed stuff? They kind of ease you guys in as a freshman class, but what were you thinking in your head?
It was pretty good. I didn't really think like too much of it, like not to the point where it's like, oh, I need to make sure I'm snapping all the time, and like I need to make sure that I'm doing all this to put myself in the position that I want to be in. Like I didn't really think of that. I don't think too much. That summer, it was more of like, what am I doing? Like I'm clueless. Like I need to figure out how to do these certain lifts. Like
you're just trying to figure out how to get to like class and like
literally all that stuff.
Yeah.
Because that was more of the summer, and then when school started up, that was still like a whole nother, like, what am I going to do? Like, this is a lot.
Figuring out your schedule, just how to be a Division I athlete.
Yeah. But yeah, that didn't really. And then fall camp comes around, and I'm like, am I going to be invited to fall camp? I'm not sure.
Yeah. How did that go? What was that conversation like through the summer? Because you're still talking to like Coach Woods at that point, probably.
Yeah. I don't think there was too much conversation about it. It was just kind of like, we got to get down to a certain number of people. There's going to be a certain amount of people left out, and you'll find a note in your locker or something like that. So I go to my locker, and it's just there, and I'm like, oh, wow, I am going to camp.
It's like Harry Potter, Goblet of Fire. We're like, the goblet will spit out a note if you're in.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then was it just you or was it you, Buddy, and Speedway?
Awesome. Yep.
Yeah.
It was us 3.
And so you guys go into camp, and are you the 3 at that point?
Yep. Me and Buddy were splitting reps on the next man field.
Okay. And how quickly, or if at all, did you sort of take the 2 spot? Because pretty quickly after this, we're going to talk about you taking the spot.
Yeah.
Because it happens fast. But like, did it happen in camp where you kind of ascended as the clear 2 and he was the clear 3?
I wouldn't say that like anybody didn't come out and say you were the clear 2. It was just kind of like we're still splitting reps. It was kind of more like like it's not like I knew I was a 2, but I was like, it's me and Buddy right now competing for that second spot.
Right.
Like I never realized that like, oh, I could have been a 2 here or not.
Right. The season starts, and Spiewak had snapped during the COVID year, and there had been some. It wasn't the best year. There's a couple mishaps, a couple places for improvement, and I got this whole story, by the way, from Coach Woods like the week or two after it happened in 2021, and it was amazing to listen to him tell it. And I wish we could have him tell it on here. You guys get into Iowa State week. The first game goes by, and I think the Spiewak have like a low ball, like 1 or 2 low balls or high
Yeah, I
balls,
think 1 or 2, yeah.
and so you like there's you guys still aren't feeling great. Like KF isn't feeling super confident. And by the way, none of this is against Spiewak. Great dude.
Yeah, great dude.
Sometimes you just don't have it. Something's off. Like, and it just happened at this time that something was off for Austin. And so the first game goes by. He takes all the snaps. The next game, you guys are at Iowa State.
Yep.
Right.
So that
and
first
you're not.
game actually,
Yeah. Tell me how this goes, because this,
right.
as a freshman who's been on campus for 10 days as the semester has started, has got to be the biggest whirlwind of like your life up to this point.
Yeah. So that first game, I didn't even suit up for it. Like I was in the stands.
Wow.
Yeah. So like I wasn't even on the sideline. And then week 2 rolls around, and I'm still at like the 2 spot or 3 spot, like Buddy, I don't know for like field goal or not. But then that week goes on, and it's like that Thursday, and I get a call from Coach Woods. Like I'm in the middle of class. I get a call from him. I'm like, I can't pick it up. Like I have like 10 minutes left of class. I text him like, I'll call you back in a few. So I get out of my class at the EPB.
Ugh.
Terrible building.
It's the worst.
Yeah. So I call him. He's like, hey, Luke, like you'll be traveling this week. If you have any questions, like ask any of the older guys or me, like what you need to do to be ready. I'm like, all right, like this is pretty cool. Like this is exciting. Like I get to go. It was like, I think me and Joe Labus were like the only 2 freshmen that were traveling at the time. So I was like, oh, this is actually like really cool. So then we go down. So that Friday we head out, and we're in the locker room waiting for the bus to leave, and Buddy shows up.
Uh-huh.
And we're like, oh, Buddy, you're traveling too? Because usually we take 2 long snappers, 2 kickers, 2 punters.
Yeah, you're not taking any more than that.
Yeah. But next thing you know, Buddy's like, yeah, I got a call from Coach Woods this morning, Friday morning. That was like, you're traveling too. So it's me, Buddy, and Spiewak all traveling. Which is just like crazy having 3 long snappers go over to Iowa State.
Do you at this moment, like as you guys are kind of sitting there going, it's like the Spider-Man meme. Like you're pointing at each other and it's like, oh, you.
I wouldn't say necessarily that. Because like it wasn't like it was like there's gonna be a determination on who's snapping on game day. Like there wasn't like
it was Austin, but
yeah, like it was Austin. This is your job. You're snapping for us on Saturday. Like that was fully the plan.
Do you have any sense of the uncertainty though? Like as you're like, oh, they're bringing both of us. Is there any, or you're just thinking, fuck yeah, I get to travel?
Yeah, it was literally travel. Like I'm like, this is gonna be awesome.
Fair.
But then I remember being in the hotel room with Ryan Gersande.
Yep.
And like we're sitting down and talking. He's like this is when it like actually hit me. Is he goes, Luke, like you are gonna need to be ready on Saturday to play. And that's when I was like, oh my god, like
because Gersande at this point is that his final year?
Yeah, it was his final year.
21. So he's seasoned. He's been around. Tough for the kid because he just had so many injuries. His career, he could really boot it if he was just healthy and got any kind of consistency. And he's a great dude.
Yeah.
But as far as like he fully understands the gravity of the situation as far as like who they're taking, what means what. And so he says that to you, and that sort of relays it to like, oh, it's serious.
Yeah. Like that's when it like finally hit me, which was like Friday night before the game. I'm like, wow, like, yeah, like I might have to go in tomorrow.
Do you have any idea what the Iowa State game even?
Not really, no. I just knew that it was because I think we were 9 and they were 8 or vice versa. And it was
college. Yeah, that was the year that it was college. Dude, that's an insane first game. Unbelievable.
Yeah. And then also the funny part too is Woods texted me, I think it was on that Thursday or Friday, and he's like, you're not going to be able to wear number 44 because Benson's on the punt unit. And he's like, we don't want to like have those line up. And he's like, what number do you want? And it was like a range of like 80 something, 90 something, and like 39. I'm like,
just the worst numbers on the team.
I'm like, just give me 39. Like, I don't want a high number. So that game, we get in the locker room for the game, and I don't have a last name on my jersey. It literally just says it's literally 39.
I love it.
Like, they just made the jersey like no last name, nothing. So I thought that was pretty funny. I have like a photo or two of running off the field.
It's kind of that's kind of like an Easter egg, like and sort of a little bit of a microcosm of like what the specialist is. Like, you're just a no-name position that just goes out there, does their job, and doesn't need to be recognized. It kind of plays nicely. I like it.
Yeah.
So you run out there, no name on your jersey. Spiewak is still starting.
Yep.
Right? You going through warmups, and
so,
then
let me say something about warmups.
Oh, tell me about it.
Warmups, and Ashton Kutcher's there.
Oh, Kutcher was there?
Yeah, he was there because he was speaking on College Game Day, and he's a big Hawkeye fan.
Yeah.
So we're done with our warmups. We're kind of hanging around for the rest of the team to come out, and he comes up to us and starts talking to us, and like he is absolutely hammered.
Oh yeah, he likes to get juicy.
So we were like, I can't believe this is happening. Like, this is like Ashton Kutcher's just like trying to talk to us. We don't understand what he's saying. We're just kind of nodding our head yes and no. But I was like, this is another crazy like experience too. Like, this is a famous celebrity who's in great movies, great shows, and he's just
your life at this point is just like, what is going on? Like,
yeah,
you're just the Iowa State fans are rowdy at that point.
Oh,
You've already walked out to like the fuck you Iowa. Ashton Kutcher sloshed is trying to make conversation. Yeah. Unbelievable. Do you remember? And again, I don't want to focus in on Spiewak, but it matters. Do you remember how he was looking in warmups that day? How he was feeling? Did he give off any like energy? Like
not any like bad energy. No, like he seemed fine. Like, I didn't notice anything horrible from pregame warmups.
And you guys come out, and I remember it very, very succinctly. His first snap is high.
Yep, field goal snap for sure.
And I'm like, I'm already like keyed in because I knew that the previous week didn't go well. And I'm like, Jesus, like, what are we going to do? And this is where the story was pretty great from Woods. Again, I'm going to let you tell it. But like, can you tell me how you got the nod on the sideline? Maybe you weren't even part of this, but like, I heard that, who was it? Was it Gersonde that walked over and said like, or somebody else, or maybe it was Keith was already gone, right? So it would have been. So somebody walked over and was like, "You have to put Elkin in." That's what I heard.
Oh, like, I think that was Gersonde.
Okay, I think it was Gersonde. Like, the way he told me it was like Gersonde walks up and goes, "Hey, Elkin's got to go in. He's got to be the guy."
It might have been Shudak. Now that I think of it, I don't.
It might have been Shooty. It might have been Shooty. And so, who lets you know?
Coach Woods comes up to me and like, you know how frantic Coach Woods can be on game day. Oh
God,
which is like,
yeah, he just cares so much.
That's for another story, but yeah. But he comes up to me, he's like, Luke, you're going in for field goals, like straight serious, like kind of yelling a little bit because he's all so amped up. And I was just kind of like, oh, like, okay, like that's when the heart started racing a little bit. I was like, yep, here we go. But it was nice too because like as I got older, like realizing the transition of, oh, we're about to punt. Oh, wait, no, we're in field goal range. Oh, we got sacked, punt again. Where like right now I'm just at a point where like, oh, I'm just doing field goal snaps. So I'm like just thinking about that.
Yeah, there's a way that you can punt. Yeah, you can compartment.
That's where it's like I was able to stick with Ryan because Ryan just held. So it was just me and Ryan like pretty much the whole game. Getting field goal snaps, which helped me out a lot.
Yeah, that's a huge entry. Like I remember just thinking even my first game, just thinking like, oh God, can we please just kick a field goal for the first one?
Yeah.
Because the first time they step it back to 14, you're like, wow, that's pretty far. It's pretty far out here on game day. Looks a little different. So that is nice. That's a great little soft entry into like your snaps, and everything went well, right? As far as I remember. And then the next week, you have everything?
So the next week I got put on punt and field goal.
And was that decision made during the week or?
During the week. Yeah, it was made during the week.
Just because of period and stuff like that. Like he was just like, okay, Elkin's looking a little bit more consistent. Like he's the guy. And then for those listening, we're talking like this is August, early September of 2021. You've snapped every single game since that point.
Yep.
Just didn't look back.
Nope.
Have you had any chance to sort of reflect on your career now that it's over and just sort of that specific part of it? Like, oh my God, like how
I don't think
crazy is it that I went in that day and then it's just been every game since then?
I've realized it yet, just because like it's still like so fresh. Like even like these past few weeks, not being like having to go to meetings or anything,
Mhm.
like that still feels weird to me. But I'd say like realizing like now that I'm done, that it's like, oh, I did snap for 4 years for the University of Iowa.
Yeah.
Like that's like not too many people can say they did that.
Like
Pretty cool.
not too many, like again, going back to the whole thing, it's like there are just not a lot of 4-year guys.
No.
Like if it's at other positions and there's somebody playing that early, there's a good chance they're leaving early because they were so good.
Yeah.
Specialists aren't leaving early, but most of them aren't getting the chance as a true freshman.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I'm telling like that's something you're gonna look back on. I do it all the time. And I just
Yeah.
think, God, I was so lucky. Mine just happened to be I don't know what was going on. They just didn't recruit somebody, or they just happened to need somebody the year that I came in because they had Casey going out as a senior. And after he graduated that fall, it was like, okay, I just like got the job.
Yeah.
There's just nobody else. And I think about that all the time. Like, wow, what great luck I had that I happened
Mhm.
to be coming out of high school that year, that Iowa, 2 hours down the road from my house, like needed a snapper. I happened
Yeah.
to be right. Like it just feels so lucky. So I was a little bit worried that you did have an extra year because to my knowledge, not just snappers, but like any position, I'm pretty sure I'm still laying claim to one record at Iowa, and it's the most consecutive starts of any player ever. How many games did you start in a row? Because you wouldn't have started the first one, and then you didn't technically get the start at Iowa State. So you got what, 11 that year?
Yep. 11.
Or no, 12. You would have gotten 12 in that first because you guys went
Yeah.
to the
The Big Ten championship game. I want to say it's like 51 or 52.
okay.
It might be like 52 played in, 51 started.
Yeah. Sounds right.
Yeah.
Mine was
But like,
50. Mine was 53, and I thought you had some like COVID year saved up. You were going to come back and make it like 60 something.
yeah, no.
Okay, good. When you're in the league, I can just at least hold on to that I still have that record.
I think you
Um,
got the do you have the bench press or the
yeah,
anything like
I still got the bench too.
bench?
I
Yeah.
I cannot I and nothing against you. Some people just aren't bench pressers, but I cannot believe that's still up there.
Well, Buddy, I think was supposed to beat it like his last year that he was here,
And then he
but then he
transferred.
got like mono. So like he
I
was
got
super
saved
sick.
by mono,
He was super sick like the week of max outs.
and there's no way you're
And
getting it
then
then.
he didn't come in because he was like
Wow.
super underweight and all that stuff.
Maybe God is real. He saved me there. That's my only claim because I had the 5.10.5, but then my brother broke it.
Yeah, yeah.
Little bastard. Um, so that's good. I still got a couple things over there. They can't forget me quite yet. What was it like from year 1 to year 4? Talk about like the mental maturity of the
Alright.
of the position and just at first, like you said, you're like, oh God, thank God I just have the PAT snaps. Like that's the kind of thing you're thinking about. You
Yeah,
don't even know what the Iowa State rivalry and that game day atmosphere is like. You don't even know, like you're just running out there like I'm just a snapper. As
yeah,
to where, like, you get more comfortable, the swarm becomes less of I mean, it's still sick every time, but it becomes less of an event and more of a part of the routine, and you can bring the heart rate down a little bit, like, what was that like over the 4 years?
So my freshman year, like, it was I'm going to bed at 7:38 every night. Like, it was like, I'm going to bed early, like, I'm getting my sleep, like, I'm
Wow.
so, like, locked in on doing this just because, like, it's like your heart starts pounding, like, all the time for it. And, like, as the season went on, it got a lot better.
Uh-huh.
But, like, ranging that to, like, year 4, like, right now, like, it's like, you always get that little bit of nervous, but it's at the same time, like, something that I kinda harped on with myself this year was a little bit was, like, "You've done this a million times.
Yeah.
You do not need to be worried about going out there and snapping. No matter if it's a game-winning kick, if it's the first punt of the game, like, just trust that you've done it so many times and then go out and do it.
Because there's always that fear in the back of your mind of like the worst possible scenario. Like, what if worst case scenario happens? And for us, that's it's a very exposing moment.
Yeah.
Like,
It is.
kicker completely shanks one, punter shanks one, snapper throws it over a guy's head. Not good.
No, not at all.
A horrible look.
Hmm.
Immediately, everyone's fumbling through their media guide trying to figure out who's 39, and I'm about to send him death threats on Instagram.
Yeah.
And so that's like even as a senior, like you kind of think about it, and it almost becomes funny. Like, man, if I do that now, like I'm really ass. Like I'm bad.
Yeah.
But I love that you came back to that. Like I've done this a million times because that is eventually what I settled on too. Was like,
Yeah.
dude, I've snapped a ball so many times at this point that there's almost no reason to think about it. Like just let it happen.
Like even this year with Reese, our punter,
Mhm.
like early like training camp, he's on the varsity field with us, and he's like, I'm nervous for punt period. Like
Mhm.
that's what he's saying.
Yep.
And like for me, I'm like, I've done a million punt periods. Like I'm like I would just go out. I could go out and do a punt period right now if I wanted to with like 2 warm up snaps. Like it's not like the end of the world.
Yeah.
But like for him as a freshman, it's like you got Coach Farron standing next to you. You got Coach Woods screaming everything.
Oh yeah.
You got Coach Wallace, like all this stuff.
Does he still? Please tell me that after stretch, immediately after stretch breakdown, he's still going punt.
Yep, just screaming it.
That makes me so happy.
Yeah.
So were you able to, and maybe you're not this kind of guy because not everybody is, but are you able to kind of, okay, I've got myself taken care of. Like I hear Reese telling me this. He's my freshman punter. You're trying to like, are you offering advice to him?
Oh yeah. So the big thing with Reese too is that
Yeah, tell me
he's like
about this guy.
he doesn't know like much about football.
So
Like when he
just like Tory, they literally didn't know shit.
yeah, I think Reese knew a little bit more than Tory did. But there were still times where like during a game, Reese would be like caught up in the game. And I'm like, you can't be doing that right now. Like you need to sit on the bench, like you need to relax, like wait for your time to come.
Yep.
But it was just like a lot of like routine during the game for him,
Mhm.
and just figuring out like what works best for him. Because that was like my biggest thing my freshman year too is like I couldn't even tell you what my routine was,
Yep.
what I did up into the snap. But with Reese, it was like I've done this for a few years. Like I understand what I need to do to get ready. I'm gonna do as much as I can to help him out, just
Mhm.
because I know how good of a punter he is, and he's gonna help us like win these games. Um,
And he was good. He was
yeah,
great this year.
yeah.
He was, I think he might have even ended up like right around or even better than where Tory was his freshman year.
So
'Cause
Tori's freshman year just hit like end over end punts.
yeah, he didn't even hit spirals.
Yeah, and this year with Reese, we barely hit any end over end like rip punts. So like
Unreal.
that's where it shows like watching Reese hit, even like Reese during period two. Sometimes you're just like, yep, that's a really good punt right there, dude.
Yeah, yeah, dude. I've been there. Some of those guys have unbelievable legs, man, and it is like art to just sit there and watch that. Um, I got to, and you'll probably get to do a lot. I mean, you're gonna go to these camps, so you're gonna be with the best kickers and punters. You're gonna be snapping to them. You've probably already done that some. Um, there was a 2019. So this is about the time where McAfee has been out of the league for like a couple years, and his show's starting to take off. But he's still kind of dabbling, dipping his toe in the water. And
Yeah,
he got a call from the Bears like, hey, you want to come work out? We need a guy. And Jamie is in Ames at the time. And he calls my brother. And my brother calls me and he goes, Jamie needs us to come and snap for Matt Hawk and Pat McAfee. And I'm like, holy shit, let's do it. And I don't know if
yeah.
you've ever seen Matt Hawk punt. He's a lefty. He was with the
Mhm.
Dolphins for a while. I think he was with the Colts a little bit the last couple of years. So we end up at Iowa State's practice field, like in the summer of 2019, snapping to Matt Hawk, who's now like a 7-year vet,
Yeah,
and McAfee. And it was one of those same things, like when Tory hits a boomer or like
yeah.
it's Pat McAfee and Hawk can absolutely smoke it.
Mhm.
And you just sit there and you're like, these are absolute nukes.
Yeah,
Like there's missiles coming off of their foot right now. It's
yeah.
unbelievable. Is he hit like what's Reese's A ball? Like it's just perfect. 72 degrees, a little downfield wind. He puts one into it. What's a hang and what's a
I was gonna say he's had a few, like I don't wanna put, like, wind into it just because
sure.
that can
Sure.
affect it a lot. But, like, his best ball is, like, 55, 50 something. Like,
Yeah.
that's an NFL ball right there.
Yeah.
Um, but then it's also, like, you get one of those punts out of 25.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
it's just, like, the consistency for him, which I'll be excited to watch him this next year just to see how much he goes from year 1 to year 2.
Mhm.
Um, just because how he performed this past year is, like, he's got 3 more years left, like,
Yeah. And I
this is
think
gonna
that's how we felt with Tory too when he was a freshman. We were all like, "Dude, he's so good already.
yeah,
What is he?" And then he just got better, slightly better, slightly better, slightly better, and like,
yeah,
and now he's the guy for
like
the Bears.
like like Torrey's senior year, like, during punt period, we'd have, like, 8 punts.
Mhm.
Like, 7 of those 8, you'd be like, "Yep,
Yep.
those are good punts."
Yeah.
You're just, like, looking at him like, "Ah, I'm already walking back to get the next snap, and the ball
Yeah.
hasn't even hit the ground yet." Like, it's
I mean, Tory's special. He's different.
yeah, yeah.
Um, Go back to your freshman year on the sideline in the middle of games, talking about routine. Were you like a fidgety guy? Were you a guy who you need like so I always felt like I wanted limited reps. I didn't need a lot. I needed to see a couple good ones go back, and I felt good about that. Whereas like Miguel Racinos in practice, or even Subert, who you would have you met Subert at all?
I
So
don't
he
think I
was
have.
so he was before Spiewak after me. Um, those 2 guys, they needed I mean, they would just rep after rep after
Yeah,
rep. It was so much volume. It's like it was almost like they're just doing it because there's nothing else to do. Like
yeah,
there would be times where I'd be like, "Guys, chill. You
yeah.
gotta you gotta lay back." Where did you land on that spectrum?
So I feel like my freshman year, it was more of reps, reps, reps,
Yeah.
just because it's like
TV timeout, you're trying to get like
yeah.
6 on the sideline. Yeah.
I wouldn't say, like, 6, but, like, 3 or 4,
Yeah.
which is more than I did needed my senior year.
Yeah.
But that's just because like, I thought, like, the more reps I get, the better off I'll be. Like, the more feeling I get of the ball coming off my fingers, I'll be
Sure.
better off in the game. But then I'd say, like, towards my senior year, it was, like, TV timeout. I'd, sit on the bike or sit on the bench for, like, the first minute and a half, 2 minutes, and then get 1 or 2 snaps with 30 to a minute left on the TV timeout, and then go
Yeah.
sit back down.
Yeah.
Just because like, I realized that I didn't need as much, just because I remember my freshman and sophomore year, like, it'd get towards end of games, and I'd be like my legs would be, like, dead.
Yeah, calves start to cramp.
Yeah, like, this isn't good. So that's one thing I'm glad I realized it, but it took me a while. But my junior, senior year, I was like, "Alright, like, even pregame warm-ups, like, I don't need this many."
Oh god. Dude,
Like,
pregame
it's
warm up.
yeah,
Pregame warm up is useless. It's almost useless.
yeah,
It makes you tired more than anything.
yeah, like, I think I'd probably get 15 to 20 punt snaps pregame
Yep.
towards my senior year, like, it's like that's all I really think I need. I
I
feel like freshman year is more like you're getting 20 to 30,
yeah,
close to 40 sometimes.
I used to tell the guys this all the time. Like my senior year, there was a time where I would hit like 2 snaps. Like I'm talking from pure cold. 2 snaps at 8 yards, 2 snaps at 10, 2 at 12, 1 at 14 into the period. Like
Yeah,
7 balls to start practice, and then we're in punt walk, right? Or into the
yeah.
period. Like it does not take a lot once you've done it a million times. Um, did you ever have so when we were there, Jason Baker came back and worked with us. Did Bake ever come back during your time?
Yeah, he was there all 4 years.
Every year. So he's doing that every
Mhm.
year still.
Yep,
Oh, dude, I have to
that's
get
it,
Bake on the show.
which is just
Um,
unreal, like, having him we had a joke for him called Big Game Bake,
oh yeah. Oh yeah.
um, just because he came in 21 to the Penn State game,
Mhm.
which that's when we were, like, the 3 or the 2 versus Penn State,
Of course.
and then he came to another big game too, um, I don't remember which one it
And
was.
so you're giving him shit about he only comes to the big ones?
He only comes to the big games.
Yeah, he did
Uh,
that around our time too.
but yeah, having Baker on the sideline and, like, there's something about it that is just like whenever he was there, like the specialist would perform so well
Yep.
every single time. And it's not like he's like saying a lot of stuff to us. Like just
Yeah.
having him there and like coming off and he'd be like, good snap. Like just having that, you're just like,
Yep.
oh, like here we go. Like I
Dude,
can't wait.
I don't know what it is either, but there is something about that guy, like, his calm energy or just
Oh yeah.
the way that he's so, like, surgical about how he thinks of the snap, the punt, the kick.
Yeah. And he
I
knows so much about football too. It's unreal.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Did you take a lot from him off the field where he was, I wasn't a big guy. I just never was a guy that tracked my snaps very well. I just didn't, like, call it defiance or me being stubborn or just lazy, but I never felt like I got anything out of charting. But
Yeah. So
Bake is a huge charter. The kickers chart everything.
yeah.
And, like, he tried to get me into it, and it helped a little bit, but I like the journaling stuff more and sort of the mental processing, but, like, did you take anything specific away when Bake would come that helped a lot?
So like his big thing that he harped on this past year was what is pregame warm up for?
Mm,
And the takeaway was that it's literally just getting your body warm. Like that's the only thing. Like he's like, you could have the worst pregame warm up and go out and perform well. Which funny story about that is Maryland this past year where Drew had 5 field goals, I think it was.
yeah,
Yeah, like pregame warm up, he was like, my legs feel dead. Like I don't feel too good. Like
yeah,
ball's going all over the place. But like that's literally all pregame warm up should be for, is just getting your body ready and warm
mhm.
to go out and perform. And it doesn't matter if you hit a bad ball. It doesn't matter if you do this because it's not the game. So that was probably my biggest takeaway that I took from Baker, at least this past year.
Yeah, and there's just I know there's 100 other little things that he just kinda says in passing where you just sit there and you're like, "Yeah, that's smart. That's
Yeah.
smart." Just a smart guy. Um, did anybody else ever come back? Did have you ever worked with Kreiter?
He showed up like I think spring ball practice my sophomore year.
Okay.
But
Did he still ever come back for, like, summer workouts or anything?
I think he did maybe once or twice. I don't really remember too much though.
Did you know about him? How early on did you learn about him? Because he's kinda like the guy, right? For us,
Yeah.
he's the Hawkeye that is literally still doing it. He's about to be in year 10,
Yep.
I
Next year.
think. Um, he's like the prototype. He's what I hoped that I would turn into, and I'm sure Subert thought he maybe had a chance for a bit, and now you've made it through your career and, like, that's the goal, right?
Yeah. Like I didn't really know of him till like my freshman year.
Yeah.
And it was like, whoa, like he's been playing the league for however 5, 6 years. Like it's like he's making a career out of it.
Yeah,
And like
legitimate one,
his whole story too of how he got in the league is just like crazy too. Takes
dude.
like years off, not finding
He was a
team.
science teacher sub.
Yeah.
He, God, at this point, I've forgotten the details of it, but he first, like, 2, maybe even 3 years, he's getting, like, that camp like, he's signed for mini camp, and he's through the summer, and then he gets into camp, and then he's the guy that gets cut.
Yep.
Um, the Cowboys forever had this old dude. His name was, like, LP Ladouceur. He was, like, French, and he was this massive dude. He was, like, 6'5", 260. And he was just a vet, like 10, 11-year vet when Casey was like their second guy. And so Casey's trying to break through, or they're kind of holding on to Casey, like if something happens to the old guy, and nothing ever did. And so he goes through like he graduated in 13 was his last year. So 2014, he gets cut by the Cowboys and he's just kind of hanging out during football season.
Yeah.
2015, he gets cut by the Cowboys. He's hanging out during football season. I think 2016
Was
is when
this
he finally gets picked up by the Broncos.
Yep.
And then he plays like 3 or 4 years with the Broncos, and now he's been another 4 or 5 years with the Giants.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I mean, if you could just make it happen. And I always my dying proclamation is that I was just too short. But hey, not for you, man. You're
No.
6'1". You're 6'1", aren't you?
Yeah.
Like a legitimate 6'1".
Yeah.
says it on the roster, but they put the tape measure on you and you actually are 6'1".
Yes.
And what do you weigh?
Right now I'm at like 230. Trying to get up to like 232 to
I
235.
was gonna say, are you trying to put a little more on?
Yep.
Have you been told to?
Yeah.
Yeah. I went from I went from 218 to 243 from the bowl game to pro day.
That's insane.
Fairlife chocolate milks, baby.
Yeah.
5 a day. I
Oh,
couldn't get taller, so I had to get wider, you know?
yeah.
It's the only way that I would give myself a chance.
Uh,
Um, so yeah, I know I totally understand sort of where you're at right now. It's a fun time. I mean, do you think you have a shot?
I would say yeah.
Legitimately. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Like,
it's just
do you
performing
know?
well.
Yeah, I mean, of course you're gonna need a big pro day, right?
Yeah.
Do you think, but like at this point, it's almost like I don't doubt that happens. It almost just comes down to like luck, certain situations.
Yeah.
Do you have an agent?
I do. Yep.
Okay, that's good. That's one
Yep.
thing I would change if I had to go back and do it because I just kind of gave out my own phone number, never really had an agent. And I think an agent's important to fight for you,
Yeah.
and like make calls. Um, are you pretty up to date on like every roster? And
Nope.
no, you're just like screw it,
Yeah. I'm at the
dude.
point now where it's like I'm not worried about like I mean all like the politics and like you got to go to this camp, you got to do this, like all this
Yeah,
stuff. Like at the end of the day, like all I want to do is just snap a football. Like
right.
I don't want to think about all this stuff. Like what if this happens? What if that happens? Because that's when you start thinking about the wrong things.
Sure.
But like right now, it's literally like I just want to get where I need to be and snap a football. Like that's literally all I want to do.
Yeah. No, I understand. So you just went down and worked with
Coles.
yeah, with Casey. No,
Yep.
not Casey. What's his name?
Casey Casper.
Is it was the guy before that Casey too? They had a guy before Casey that was doing it as well. So you worked with Casey.
Yep.
Um and you probably got all your little things. At this point, I guess to get real nerdy, and we won't spend too much on it, but like your strengths and areas of that need improvement as far as like the nitty-gritty of snapping a football. What do you think?
So I say right now, my big improvement that I need to work on is just snapping and protecting. All throughout Iowa, it's snap and release.
Mm,
So right now I started roughly like 2 weeks ago, like snapping and protecting for the first time, and I was like this isn't like too bad, but at the same time, like I'll be going up against guys that have been doing it for the past 4 years.
yeah,
Like that's the other part where it's like little like, oh, I need to like work on like this. Like this is my biggest thing because in NFL you have to be able to block these giant human beings
monsters.
while getting a good snap. So that's probably my biggest need for improvement right now. One of my strengths, I'd say though, is that
Your
it was less.
PATs,
What do you say?
your PATs.
Maybe that, yeah, but also like being able to throw like a decent fastball and being somewhat more athletic than other snappers.
Sure. Yeah.
I'd say that's probably one of my things. Um, but at the same time, too, like these other snappers, like I was with the West Virginia snapper this past weekend. Like he's like 6'2", like 240,
Yeah.
and he can move. So like it's like
At some point you're like, "Ah, I just don't know if my athleticism's gonna do it, you know?
yeah,
Like
like everybody's just as good. But
I really thought that that would play well for me too. I was probably not probably. I was the most athletic snapper coming out of our class, and they didn't give a shit. They just wanted somebody big. They just wanted somebody big. So, um, yeah, I think what's impressed me the most about your ball over the years, and maybe you can tell me I'm wrong, but I've always felt like you were pretty dialed on short snaps. Um, like from the jump, laces and everything. I could never figure out laces, dude. Like that's probably the worst thing that I had. Um, and your long snaps are great too, but it always felt like your PATs were just chef's kiss, 10 out of 10. Um, top 3 worst snaps of your career off the top of your head. I know you know them.
well, I think I only know one, but it was Illinois freshman year punt snap. We're down 7-0. Punt snap rolls right between Tory's legs. He jumps on it. They get the ball, kick a PAT. They're up 10-0.
I wasn't asking that, by the way, with 3 in mind. I just know that you probably have 3 in mind that you don't like.
Okay. So they kick off. Charlie Jones house call.
Love that.
10-7 saves me. I'm like, oh my goodness. We end up going to win the game. But yeah, that was probably my worst one. That's the only one that sticks with me. That one, and
Sure.
then I want to say my second one is probably the Nebraska game last year. Game-winning kick. A little bit of a low snap. Laces were good.
Yeah.
Got the kick up and went through, but that was not very fun for me. Not too many people notice that. I bet you only long snappers or ex-long snappers notice that stuff.
Yep. That's the
Um,
nice thing is, no one really knows except for like
yeah,
maybe coach and like your
yeah,
teammates,
yeah,
like for the specialist room
yeah,
and the holder, whoever's holding notices.
yeah.
um,
I remember thanking Tory a million times
oh yeah, I've
after
been
that.
there. I've been there. Um, Marshall Kane. I don't know if you've ever watched film of him kick. Uh, circa 2014, 15. He used to yell at me in the middle of a kick, like he's taking his steps and he's about to make contact, and he's like, "Fuck you, Kluver!" Like in the game, because Dylan Kidd, our holder at the time, had to spin it because I gave him a 6 or whatever.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, holders are saviors.
yeah, oh yeah.
They're great.
Having Ty this past year too has been awesome too because he just held for us.
Yeah,
Um, and like having him like what was nice about it was so like having Tory for 3 years. That first year though, there was a different punter and different holder, so I was able
yeah,
to go and find the different guy. But then for 2 years, it was Tory was the holder and the punter.
hmm
Like, he's focusing on punts. We're right in the edge of range, like could be getting a field goal, and I'm like, I want to get a field goal snap, and Tory's like, no, I'm getting ready to punt. So it's like,
hmm
but we definitely like worked that out like a lot, where it was like, because Tory I think got to the point where it was like, I'd rather get a hold real quick than a punt because he was
sure, because he
more,
started to feel more confident. Yeah,
yeah. Um, but like just like finding that rhythm on the sideline with Ty this past year has been awesome because like there'll be times where it'll be like pregame I'll go up to Drew and be like, what are your lines each way, so we know like what the line is for the punt field goals. And Ty would have it down, and like the second we'd get the first down, I'd turn around and Ty would have a football in his hand, and we'd already be ready to get a snap. I'm like, this is
love
awesome.
that.
Like this is great.
Smooth.
Um, but yeah, that's been awesome this past year as well.
When did you give me a couple of snaps or reps? Could be short or long, where you specifically remember, "Ooh, I feel a little bit more pressure on this one." Like I'm thinking about this one a little bit more.
Um, so last year against Nebraska, that game-winning field goal,
Yeah.
that was one where I was like,
Which, by the way, everybody just gets one of those. That's my joke now. Is if you're
yeah,
a special at Iowa, you just get a game-winning field goal.
yeah. So that was probably like one of my, I wouldn't say first ones, but it's like, yeah, this comes down to this right here.
Mhm.
And then Minnesota in 22, this one was crazy where we had like the fumble recovery that got called back or whatever, and we get
Mm.
down to like the 2 yard line.
Oh, yeah,
So we get down to the 2 yard line and we need to kick a game winning field goal.
yeah.
And we go out there and it's freezing cold. Like it is like 2 degrees, feels like -10.
And you can try to describe it, but I'm probably the only one who's gonna understand it. The how hard it is to snap a football when it's cold. People just don't get it.
No. Like, so what was crazy about that Minnesota game was we go out there to kick the game winning field goal, snap the ball, kick goes up, the whistle blew before it. We called the timeout.
Hate that.
And it's like -10, feels like -10. So, like, we book it to the benches to warm up because 'cause we're sitting out there and we're like, "We gotta go out and do this
Because
again."
you've been in a coat the whole time, like
Yeah, coat on bench, coat and legs, like, we're all snuggled up on the bench together. Um, but then so, like, that first one I was, like, nervous for, but did a good snap, and then the second one I was like, "I literally just did this."
yeah,
Like,
when you get a rep,
then
it always feels better.
yeah, and then I was
Yeah.
like, "I'm not nervous at all."
Um,
And that was the same thing that kinda happened in the Nebraska game this year, is they iced us and we got the snap off, and then I was like, "Oh, I just did this." Like,
yep,
this is
every time, and dude, you're always looking for that, huh? You're like, "Hey, we're
yeah,
snapping this anyway because
yep.
we want a little look here."
'Cause
Oh,
Drew's like, "If they blow the whistle, like,
snap that fucker.
I'm still gonna want that ball."
Yup, yup. Yes, sir. I tell the fans all the time, I'm like, "Those guys are snapping it. They're gonna get it off no matter what. The
Yep,
ref is gonna have to step in front and stop it physically,
Yeah.
because those guys are going to get a rep, because once you get a look and you get a feel, now you're just
Thanks.
repeating exactly what you just did, and it makes it 100 times easier.
Mhm.
Were there any backed up, like on the 2, on the 1, on your
Oh, I had one, I think, on, like, the 4 or the
you
5.
didn't get any of those?
So nothing, like, too backed up,
Bro.
but there was one where it was I think it was Michigan State. We were in the north end zone, and this is the one where Coop had that, punt return
Mm,
to win the game basically for us,
yeah.
and we're, like, on, like, the 8, and we're like, "Alright, we're doing tight plug, like, we need to get this catch ball, get it out." And we're in the north end zone, and with having Tory, this was one negative of having Tory is you go out and run on the field, and the whole crowd starts cheering.
Yeah, you can't hear anything in that end zone, I
Can't
hear.
can't hear anything. So we're in the north end zone, and it's on the shift call,
Mm.
and I don't hear it because 'cause I'm bent over.
You guys didn't have like a dude, when we did
So
it, I just told him, "Hey, just step. Just move your leg and I'll go on
yeah,
that."
so it was a shift call. I mean, the Sam or the Mike linebacker's, like, 4 yards away from me, so it's like I should be able to hear it.
Yeah.
We have 2 guys on the gunner on the left and, like, the strong guard on the left, both, like, turn and go.
Yeah.
And then the Sam who's right behind me is like, snap the ball," with some other language in there.
Yeah.
So I just ripped the snap, never called a false start, but we were like,
Got
I've never
away with
had
that
to
one?
do that before. Yeah, like, that was lucky.
Yeah, there's a couple there. Some of those timing issues happen, it's just like, I don't know what I can't do anything. I
Yeah,
like,
it got to a point too this year with, like, Harrell where it was like, I'd look at him and be like, "You gotta wave your hand," like, I
yeah,
can't.
which is cool because you're like, "Dude, this is environment is sick," but also I don't
Yeah,
wanna, like, I definitely don't wanna get a flag here, so,
yeah.
yeah. Um, so you went and worked with Coles. What do you got? You going to, like, what are they called? Like a Zonner camp? You going to that?
I haven't decided yet on that one.
Okay. Is there, like, the Coles,
Full
Elite
showcase.
Showcase?
Yep,
Is that in Arizona still, or do they do
yep,
that in
that's
Texas?
on it, Arizona.
Okay. I went to that one. Any other ones?
And then the senior specialist showcase I'm going to down in,
I saw that
Florida.
was on Twitter. Yep. And what is that? Is that like a is
That's
that
kind of a new that's kind of a new thing. They have I think there's 6 snappers, 6 punters, 6 kickers, or it might be more than that, I don't know. But it's like a 3, 4-day long thing, that you just get paired up with a punter and kicker and go do a whole bunch of different stuff with them.
okay. Who's it put on by?
It's this one guy named Jackson, I can't think of his last name.
Huh. Okay. Yeah, that definitely I don't think was around when I was there. So,
No, that I think that just started this year.
um, and then other than those, you're just training in Iowa City. Is it kind of lonely, or do most guys nowadays kind of go and find a different, like, facility where their agent's paying for them to go to and all that
Yeah.
stuff?
So right now it's just me and Kyler Fisher working
That's
out
it.
at that at
Oh
Iowa.
my goodness, man. You got the whole, so it's just you and like who's running it? Like
It's
Cody?
like me, Fish, and Cody or Cole or Drew.
You get the
Like
whole
it's
weight room to yourself.
yeah.
It's amazing. Um, well, dude, I like I cheer for you and the guys more than anybody probably. And I want so badly for another snapper to catch in the NFL because I know that you can do it, and I know that you can do it. It's all about just getting that opportunity, and
Yep.
they just are so far and few between. So, um, I hope it all works out, man. I'm excited to keep following you, and I appreciate you coming on.
Yep. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you everybody for listening. Luke Elkin that's the most you've ever heard of Luke Elkin for a good
Probably.
reason. Because this guy didn't mess anything up over his career. Oh, I know. One last question. What do we got? Ike Speltz coming in.
White spells, yep.
Tell me, are we in good hands?
He's a good
Literally.
dude. Yep. I like him.
Okay. Okay. I think I helped out with a camp the year before he came in, and I met him at the camp, and he was like the clear best snapper there.
Yeah.
And I kind of like told Woods that because Woods offered. He's like, "Hey, what do you think?" I'm like, "I don't know. This one guy probably has the only potential here." And all of a sudden, he's on the roster, and I think he's the guy. Like, I don't know if there's a lot of competition.
Yeah.
Was it just you and him this year?
Yep. Just me and him. So
Okay.
ever since that first year, it's always been 2 snappers.
Yeah, I mean, they're well, and now with the roster limits,
Yeah. I don't
you're
know how
I don't
that
know if you're getting more than 2 snappers ever again.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Did you make any NIL money?
Yes.
Like, did you make any from? You don't have to tell me numbers, but that little smirk makes me maybe want to throw up because I think you made more than I would have liked to know. Did you? Was it all from like the charity side of things, like for that stuff, or did you actually like get any like deals? Like, were you able to like do any like social posts or anything like that?
I was mostly through Swarm,
Okay,
but that
all
was
right.
that was it.
I'll have you tell me the figure off air.
Okay.
All right. Luke Elkin, everybody, you're going to see him in the league. I promise. Somebody just has to give this guy a chance. He'll be snapping in the league, and I'll be jealous of two guys. Thanks, everybody, for listening. We'll be back again on Monday. Until then, peace.